In this video, Lee is going to be implementing the brush selection method.
Yep. Now all we have to do is find our terrain sculptor. Here it is. SelectBrush. This is where we're
Okay, so not the brush selection, but SelectBrush.
Yeah. So you were
Same
completely, utterly backwards.
Like usual, but that's fine.
Yeah, you were close enough. So, all right. So how are we going to deal with this? It's not going to be anything super complicated. We've currently got our brush selection set up by toggling through brushes by using the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So pretty much the easiest way to handle it is an if check that says if input dot get key down of type key code, and I'm looking for alpha 1. So if that is the case, we need to do stuff. All right, what are we going to do? Well, we need to set a brush, but we don't have a brush variable or field to save stuff in, so we're going to need one of those. So up here where we've set a private static sculpt tool, we need to make a private static brush. And once again, creative naming rules, this will be a brush. So now we have a brush. So now we can come down here to our
Can you jump back up real quick?
Yeah, I can.
You really want to call that brushes?
No.
Okay.
It would have popped up when I went to build it.
Oh, I'll just be quiet. Sorry.
You're always quiet, like when it doesn't matter, but you know, when it's important stuff. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Okay. I'll just be quiet for everything.
No, because then we would never hear you.
Well, except for giving you a hard time, of course.
Well, that's a foregone conclusion. And just think, I gave up a night of gaming for this.
Yes, you did.
But
it is appreciated.
But it was a good game to, judge based off of what we might be able to do with our MMO. It was research, really.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for the number 1, I believe we had that set up to be a soft edge brush. So if the person selects the number 1, we want to create a new soft edge brush. Simple as that.
Now, before we even get that far, do you want to go ahead and just create a default soft edge brush? Just so
I wish we're going to be quiet. No. Just so we don't run into the same problem as before.
That's right. The moment that we toggle over into the terrain sculptor, we have both a sculpt tool and a brush available, a default.
Technicalities. I like things exploding. I like things burning and falling down and going up in giant plumes of smoke.
Basically exciting. I understand. I got you.
Yes. You know, if I don't see blood red text all over my screen, I'm just not happy. All right, so now we've created a default brush. But if the person were to happen to press the number 1 key, then we would create a new soft edge brush. So we could also get a little bit fancy with this and say, and brush, let's see, can we use is, I think, to do this? So we could do is soft edge brush. And then if we can put that in brackets, put a knot around it, would that work? Oh, hold on. Not brush. I don't think that's exactly what I had in mind.
Put your knot outside it.
Yeah, if it's not a brush. All right, so all that we're doing is I'm adding a little extra code, doing this on the fly, so hopefully this will work. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that if the person hits the number 1 key and we're not already a soft brush, then create a new one. But there's no point in recreating a soft brush if we're already a soft brush. It's just redundant, so it's just an additional check. All right. In addition to this, we need to take our projector. We need to take our material, particularly setting the texture of the material of our projector. So we're going to set texture. Now the way this works is it takes a string and a texture. The string is defined by the value, if you remember when we did our little projection, our little projector shader, which is this guy, we defined that our stencil, or our texture for our stencil, is going to be denoted by the term underscore stencil. This is what we need to type there. So inside of our train sculptor here, when I'm setting my texture, the string that I need to give it is going to be underscore stencil. Not stencil, stencil. And the texture is going to be held inside of our brush, and that will be our, in this case, icon, because our soft edge brush doesn't really have a stencil, but what is in the icon is what I wanted to display on our projector. So with that, I can take this line of code, or those lines of code, copy them, turn this into an else, because I don't ever want to be able to set more than one brush at a single time. Increment this to alpha 2, make this a hard edge brush instead of a soft edge. Duplicate this. Take this line of code, duplicate it 2 more times. Change this one to alpha 3. This one to alpha 4. This will become a noise brush. That will be a noise brush. This one will be a stencil brush. Now, we're not running this code, so we actually have to call it. So we've put this right before our select sculpt tool. So now we're calling it, but we can't run the code yet, because even as much as I said I like errors, I don't really. So I need to deal with our projector, because right now all of our brushes are just skeleton code. None of them deal with this icon whatsoever. So if I were to try this now, our icon would be null and we'd get an error.
Right.
So we're going to go to each one of our brushes, starting with our hard edge brush. Inside of the constructor, we need to load up our icon. So basically icon equals resources.load. And save it as a texture. And actually, I think I said it as a texture 2D. All right. Now, what are we going to use as a temporary placeholder for our icons? Let's go ahead and see what we have inside Unity. So if we look at textures, all right, we have a test pattern. This will work handy. So let's go ahead and do this. So ignore resources.load. So we will use our test pattern for our icon. The cool thing is we can do this for all of our brushes. And then stencil brush. Actually, that goes here. All right, now will that do everything I needed to do for now? It should. Now I need to make sure that sample gets called. So the way that we can deal with sample is inside of each one of our tools. So start with our raising tool. Inside of our deform mesh, we can call the brushes .sample. Now it accepts a sample point, and the sample point for now we'll just send in position, and it needs a brush size, and we have one of those, so we'll send in brush size. Take this bit of code, put that into our lowering tool, into our leveling tool, and inside of our smoothing tool. All right, so if we build out, no errors, it should work, fingers crossed. All right, so if we run, bring this up, move it over, and if you can play. All right, so we've got errors already. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. I know what I forgot to do. All right, don't even need to bring that up. Visual Studio. Inside of our terrain sculptor, which is way over here somewhere. Here. I was calling the deformer by passing null in. So I'm passing in null. So if you look, we're passing in a list of patches. Then we're supposed to pass in a brush. And I've got that set to null. So that should take care of that problem. Oh, it's still running. All right, let's see what else explodes. All right, so
soft edge.
Yep.
Hard edge. Noise. Stencil.
Yep. So all of that is working, but our icons aren't working exactly the way they're supposed to.
No.
So wonder what's going on with that one. So, oh, you stopped it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I was going over the scene so I could
okay.
pan back out so I could see what it was drawing. If it was just drawing solid red or what.
Hang on.
Too many drivers.
Yep. Oh, game ended up getting pulled off anyways. Ah, that's fine.
So it's the whole thing that's turning red.
Yeah.
All right then. So,
And that's all of your different brushes.
Okay. So I'll have to figure out what's causing that to explode. But it's not an error, so that's a plus. But we do know that our selection is working the way it's supposed to. Now let's see what's going on here. Set texture, stencil. And let's look at something else over in Unity 2. Let's kill this for now. Bring up the sculpt tool so I can see this. So if we turn on the brush, so our stencil isn't getting assigned anything. Of course, it's not changing for me, is it? Can you cycle
it's
through
changing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, look down at the bottom. Soft edge, hard edge, noise, stencil.
Okay, good. It's just way behind. I see it about 2 seconds after I push the button.
Gotcha.
All right, so for some reason our stencil is not being applied. So projector material, set texture, stencil is not getting picked up. So we're going to have to sort that out.
Hey, you want me to pause for a second while you look through the code?
If you want, yeah.
All
Let's
right.
save some time.
Okay, Lee, we are resumed.
Yeah, well, we got to give Jason credit again, second time in, as many videos.
10
He actually,
years.
yeah, he caught this one first. Test pattern needs to be under resources. Otherwise, we can't load it using resources.load. So we had to move that. So if we hit play now, give it a sec to start up, switch over. So soft edge,
Oops.
hard edge, we still have our icon. Noise brush, still have an icon. And we still have our stencil brush. So that is working. We can swap out.
Awesome.
So, and we don't blow anything up, which is even better. So now there is one interesting thing to note about the stencils and the icons that I'll bring up here because we had so much problem with it, is the projector works based off of your stencil having an alpha. So when it has an alpha channel, that dictates what part is going to be the color that you choose and what part you do not see on the background. That isn't necessarily how your brushes work. Your brushes are grayscale. So the difference between black and white and the amount in between is dictating how much influence your brushes have. So if you were to use an image that you're using as your stencil and try to copy that directly in as your icon, you're going to have similar effects that we had when we just used one of the other textures that was all black and white. I wonder if we have any still in here.
Thought we had taken them out.
Well, we'll find out. So if we've got our tool set up here, so if I go and jump to our material and we go to our sculpt tool, if we select one of the black and white, like this default particle, and of course that it's got the
Need to clamp it.
yep, we need to clamp it. That one must have an alpha channel with it too. So you need to have alpha channel information for this to work right. If you forget the alpha channel, what you end up with is a black square with your white in the center. So if you're playing around with icons and stuff, that may be the issue that you're dealing with. So just something to keep in mind. That'll be the difference between icons and stencils. And the other reason that I wanted to keep them separate was it gives me the ability to have higher res stencils and lower res icons as well.
Okay.
So, well, I didn't mean to do that, but I can fix it by hitting the number 2, I think. There we go. Just like. So we do know that it is indeed replacing our textures.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Awesome. All right. Well, is that going to wrap up this video?
Yep.
All right. Fantastic. Well, we'll see you guys over in the next.